Alright, here we go. Now it's ready to be painted. I've already painted one. I wanted to experiment with colors and also see like what I like and don't like before I went on camera. I would suggest though, if you're doing this at home, probably do both the same time just so they look the same. You exactly how I created and painted this guy. So we are going to start with the top part. And for the top, this orange color, I used a mixture of different colors. I used just orange, primary yellow, red oxide, shades, black and white. I have mixed all 5 of the colors to get different shades. Definitely I used in my darker tones to get it more dark, but to just keep it from not being gray, I used a lot more red oxide and along with the orange. But in my lighter colors, I used a lot more of the orange with the yellow again, so it doesn't become like gray. And I'm just going to go along and do a base. So it's okay, you'll see it's going to be a little transparent, that's fine, because I'll go in with a second layer. And if you notice too, with my brush strokes, they all go the same direction. Just like in like normal painting, you never want it to go different directions because it can be really confusing and just doesn't look that great when you have like random brush strokes and it doesn't look like they're in a pattern of any sort. Also, I am using paintbrush instead of an airbrush. I have a very nice airbrush, but I wanted to go with more of an illustrative feel. That's why I'm on purpose, like you can see there's like non-blended parts that look like I left the brush stroke texture in there. I did that on purpose. I personally love the art style in Valorant, and I really wanted to portray that in my cosplays, just like I did with Killjoy's jacket. Like I hand painted everything. I did that with Jet with her jacket and her daggers. But if you want to go more like a realistic type style with these, definitely airbrush is the way to go. It'll just give smoother gradations. You don't see brush strokes and that kind of stuff. I guess it just goes for whatever style you want to go with. So I'm not completely done with doing the base, as you can see, but on this top part I remembered something that I did do. While this base layer is wet, I also went in, if you notice, this top part is lighter. So I'm gonna go in with the light colors and I'm gonna do a base of that and blend it in with my medium orange while it's still wet. And now with acrylic, you gotta move fast because it dries really fast. And it's okay if it's not perfect because this is just base and I can touch up things later. Also, I'm going all the same direction with my brush strokes. So I finished with the first layer here, and I also, I forgot to paint the inside there, but I also started to paint the inside. The inside's really optional because no one will see it, but me personally, I like it because it'll be more complete, and I'll do that later. So now I'm gonna go with this, and I'm going to go with my second layer, but at the same time, since now technically this part is going to be wet because I just painted it, I'm going to go in with highlights and shadows so I can blend them in. You can see that good, right? And then going with my darker color. I'm gonna go and blend that. Brush right here that is dry. And it actually looks like there's not enough contrast there. So I'm gonna actually make even a darker shade of that brown. I'm always doing this, I'm always mixing new colors and everything. There we go. Now that might look a little too dark, but wait, once I blend it in, then it'll be good. And by doing this, this gives your, like whatever you're making by actually physically painting in lights and darks, gives it value and texture. Otherwise, if you paint everything the same exact color, which might be your first instinct just to do so, it can look really flat. So you definitely want, in painting, there is never just one solid color. You want dimension, you want interest. And then I'm going to go in with a lighter color. Blend that too. And then I'm going to go in with a lighter color and put that on top just as a little highlight. Now keep in mind where my, I have to keep in mind where my light source is coming from. So on these ones, I decided it to come from this side here. That's how I was imagining it. Alright. And so I realized that, but that's okay, I'll just do this. I want them to be the same. I realized that I put the highlight on the wrong side. There we go. Alright, and then as you notice, there's this really light highlight right there. That I'll do on top when everything's dry. That'll come later. Just keep going. I'm doing all second coat. Whoop. I need to bring the brush. There we go. Perfect. Blended in more of my highlights, even going up onto the top. And yeah. There you go. And I'll just be doing this all the way around. So now that I have my 2 layers done and I got even some shadows in there, now start to highlight and all the tiny details. I'm going to first start with these highlights here. So I have my most lightest light color, which is here, and I don't want my brush like super wet like this where there's like a lot of paint. I want it a little bit more dry because it's gonna look like a reflection. And I'm gonna decide here, since it's all the same on all sides, I'm just gonna go, I think I like this one as the front, so I'll go ahead and paint and also blend. Also keeping in mind where my light source is on these, just like I did here. And then I'm gonna go in and turn this around so you can see what exact color I'm going for. I'm going in for like a medium light color, and I'm gonna blend that around and blend that in. And this would be the point in time too, if you wanted to make it, like if you're doing something that's super shiny and would have even like a white highlight in it, this would be the time to add in an even lighter highlight. But these aren't like super shiny, so I'll do that. All right, there we are. And I don't like how it curves there. I'm always adjusting, always changing things up. Now I have the second highlight done. Next step is to move on to the lines. We're going to start with the dark part first. I'm going to go with my darkest color. And these lines I just free hand drew on. Trickiest part's honestly going to get them to be all the same. So let's see. I just realized I'm messing up on details. Okay, scratch that. I'm going back in. Okay, so even though I made a mistake, I covered this all up. I accidentally put my highlight here when it should be actually on the other side, right here, and also I was drawing the lines when they should have been here. So, gonna restart. Also, I have a different brush in my hand. As that was happening, my brush broke. So it is now gluing off to the side, which this one is slightly bigger, so it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to do better line work, but I'll be okay. Not too worried. Boy, and my paint's starting to dry. So it's starting to become thicker, so it's harder to blend onto dry paint. But that's okay. We'll make do with what we got. Alright, and there's my highlight, and now on to the detailed work. So actually, since I do have my light color and it is drying because acrylic dries really quickly, I'm going to just start with the highlights on the little dots here. And then sometimes I go back, like I don't like how big that one turned out. So I'll actually go back and blend it in. There we go, that's better. Alright, and then there's the highlights. As for the darker shades, I'm going in with like a different brush, a skinnier brush. Or actually, this isn't the shades, this is going to be the lines that separate the panels. So, gotta be careful. Where am I starting? So this would be my front. And I got both one that I painted here and a reference picture. So I went ahead and I painted all the dark lines that are basically like the separation of each of the parts of the top. And now I'm gonna go ahead and create the highlights. I mixed two colors for the highlights. I made a light of the same mixture that I did for the base and all of the colors. Made a light like orange. And then I also have even a lighter light that I'll just show you on my palette. So I'm going to go in with that color, and then I'm going to do highlights with that one. And just pay attention to where I imagine where light would catch. I don't want to outline absolutely everything because then it looks like I'm just outlining. No, I'm adding highlights. right there. Mm-hmm. Right, and then there's one part, and as you can see, it already looks more three-dimensional than when it was just like this. And once you got the parts here, going with even a lighter light, and it's basically the same color that I'm painting here, I just added a lot more white to it, and I'm gonna go within tiny touches. Alright, and then there's how you add in value. You could see before it looks much flatter, and then now it looks like it actually has, gives the illusion of like shiny metal panels. Alright, now I finished the highlights of all around the top part. I also added on this little blue square. It was pretty simple, just took some white and freehand on a square and painted over with some blue, which was this light blue. Added white to it to give it dimension. And yeah, now the little tops are fully done. Time to move on to the bottom part. Now as for the bottom half, it is like a gray-white color, but I'm not going to add all just black and white into this mix. I'll also add a little bit of this blue-green color, just so it doesn't look so flat. I never like to add just black and white. I always want to add in a little bit of color into my grays. So for the lightest part, I have my light right here, and that's going to be more the white. And I'm going to do one coat of that where I also have a lighter gray, but on my second layer I'm going to go in with my darker grays here. And while the paint is still wet, I'll go around and I'll grab like a medium gray color. And blend it in. It's okay if it's not totally perfect because this is only the first layer. Also with the details we'll go back in and fix. And do any kinds of touch-ups. So right here I got the base layer done. I already have 2 coats of paint on here, just added more to the highlights, and I added highlights here. Onto the small little details of like separating each section of the Nanoswarms. So I'm gonna add in these lines and add in some highlights. To get this color here for the separation of each section, I mixed, of course, white and black to make gray, but also I added in a little bit of like this blue-green color, just a really tiny amount. Now that I have the bottom sections done, I am going to do shadows around all the edges and defining those edges. I'm going to take my darkest dark color and just defining what parts. Alright, now I'm going to show you how I did the highlights on here. I take still the gray that I've been using, I just added a lot more white to it to make the lightest light color. And I just almost imagine where all the highlights would be. And as you can already see, all the pieces are more standing out just on the highlights alone. Alright, so here are all the highlights. It looks so pretty and so shiny. All that's left to do now is the lights that are right here. And to get this color, I actually used a different blue-gray. Ended up mixing it with this primary blue that I have here with the black and the white. Alright, there you go. Now that this is done, I'm gonna let it dry for a few seconds and then I'll add in the orange inside. Alright, now that these where the lights are going to be, is dry, I'm going to actually be painting some orange in the middle. And I'm gonna take a little bit of white and very carefully paint on the inside. This is kind of tricky because I want to make sure it's clean and it doesn't get on the dark outside. It's not the most comfortable way to paint, but it is what it is. Alright, and I'm just going to be painting the inside of those and then the inside of these as well. Alright, and now that I have the insides of the circles painted white, I'm going to go in with some orange, just the same orange that I was actually using for the tops. And I mixed it with also a little bit of white. Hope this didn't dry on me. No, it didn't. And then I'm going to paint the insides orange. And at this part, I have to be really careful not to get it on the inside or outside. Or, I mean the inside, you won't really see it all that much. But I have to be really careful not to get it on the outside. Yep. And then I'm just gonna do this on all 3 of the insides of the circles. So now that I have the insides of the circles painted orange, I have here some glow-in-the-dark orange paint. So when the lights aren't on, they could still glow in the dark. Just kind of a cool effect, because why not? And I'll just paint the insides, give it a good coating. Alright, now they're both done. All done being painted. The only thing now left to do is the lights, which we'll get to in a little bit. Since I was also working on these, I was working on the pockets for her backpack right here. And the idea is that the little nanoswarms go in here like this. We were joking around that it's kind of like a little water bottle holder for a lunchbox. And with these pockets, it was pretty simple. I actually used some scrap fabric that was like really stretchy. Here's some of it left over. And the stencil I used was actually like the simplest thing ever. It was just a square sheet. I just figured out how big my little nanoswarms are all the way around to attach, measured that, made it as big as this, made sure they folded around, pinned it down, cut them out. I also cut out a bottom from here, and as like you can see the bottom part, cut that out and then pin them together like you would like for clothes and that kind of stuff. Kind of something, can't really do it well with paper, but like something like that. Sewed it, turned them inside out, and then I got little pockets. Now, there are details on here, and it's going to be the same concept that I did for the jacket, where I sew on one piece of foam. This is just the EVA foam that I've been using, the same stuff I use for their these guys. Actually, I think these are scrap pieces that came from these guys. I used the 2mm thick. I'm gonna sew these on, pin them, and then with these guys will be painted. So I have 3 sets to go all the way around. I'll show you as I go on. Also on the bottom, there's also a blue, so those will sit on the bottom like so. And they aren't perfect circles because that is how I roll. And yeah, so next step now really is to work on these pockets and get these pinned down. So I finished the little details on the pockets of the backpack. I just painted the tops that were of exposed foam, and I just went really tiny with like a small brush. Also, I found it helpful to use a little card to separate between the fabric and the foam pieces. Also, I found it helpful to actually just put the little nanoswarms inside the pockets and kind of give it structure. As for the little guys, they actually do light up. Oh, I also put what is it called? Velcro on right here, not to like, it's not to hold any weight or anything, just to hold it in place so the top doesn't just fall off when it wants to. And inside here are electronics for lights. And then that just fits right on top of there. And yeah, now one of them lights up. I decided just to do one of them. So I'm not going to do the best of job of explaining this because it was mainly my brother and my dad who soldered and put this all together. I just had the ideas. They got a chip from Adafruit. I believe it's called the Gemma. And then they just soldered it all together with battery pack, little LED lights, and as you can see in here, there is also a little switch, so I can easily switch it on and off. Here you can see the chip lit up, and then there are lights. So that's pretty cool. This is my first cosplay with lights. Kind of fitting that it's for the engineer of the team. There you are. There's Killjoy's Nanoswarms. And thank you so much for watching. I'm always creating, so please stay tuned for more. Yeah, thank you, and bye.
Here we go! Placing swamp grenade.
Oi, fuck off.
Last
Oi!
I was busy
Why
looking
is
at
it
the
me?
arena.
Because you're fucking amazing.
One enemy remaining.
Turn a knife again.
To the left.
To the left.
No, bitch! What the fuck? No!